Hello guys, and welcome to another amazing episode of the crime series. In today's episode, I want us to talk about Nairobi's most feared police officers of all times. We have on several occasions profiled Nairobi's most dreaded gangsters. In this episode, we will profile 8 police officers whose names evoked fear amongst the criminals. But before we continue, kindly hit that subscribe button and also like this video. Also, do not hesitate to write us in the comment sections and I will personally respond to all of your comments. So guys, let's dive right into today's episode. Nairobi is the biggest city in East and Central Africa and hosts over 4 million people. This is according to statistics released in 2019. The city has won several global and regional awards, including the most beautiful city in Africa, the most preferred global destination, and the most favorable city to invest in, among many others. The Green City under the sun, as it is popularly known, has however been grappling with insecurity for the longest time. The rise of armed gangs within the city dates back to the early 1980s. Over the years, Nairobi has produced very many renowned criminals. However, in this episode, I want us to dig into the lives of Nairobi's most dreaded and revered crime busters. Number 1. Biggie. His real name is Samson Ogera, also known as Mkisi. Many people who grew up in Dandora will tell you that Biggie was a man feared and adored in equal measure. The mention of his name evoked fear among young men, especially those involved in criminal activities. To Dandora residents, however, he was a God-sent messiah. He was a towering figure, standing close to 6'3" feet in height. He had a stone face that could possibly give one nightmares, especially if you met him at night while on the wrong side of the law. While on undercover missions, he would disguise as a Maasai watchman, a roast meat seller, a hawker, a matatu tot, or even a witch doctor. A story is told of 3 Dandora criminals who went to seek powers from a witch doctor, only to find out that it was a trap. After narrating their criminal deeds to the witch doctor, Biggie took off his mask and left the 3 miscreants gasping for breath. However, instead of arresting them, he offered them fare and requested them to travel up country, never to be seen again in Dandora. 2 of the miscreants ignored his request and were later gunned down. Biggie was said to know all criminals by their faces and names. He would not only warn the miscreants but also their parents. In many occasions, he would offer them fare to travel up country or anywhere else they liked but not in Nairobi. Those who ignored his warnings were later faced with the worst, some even death. Several attempts were made on his life, but they all proved futile, leaving people thinking that he was immortal. In one incident, gangsters posing as victims of crime called his phone and asked him to rush to their rescue. The gangsters, however, ended up shooting dead an innocent motorist who drove by in a car similar to that of Biggie. Biggie was later redeployed to Kawangware and Kibera, where criminal activities were in a surge. Number 2. Blacky. Blacky was such a mysterious undercover officer that almost none of Kibra residents knew his real name. His dark complexion earned him the name Blacky. Blacky was a ruthless crime buster who embraced technology in fight against crime. It is said that he would store pictures of the criminals on his phone, then track them down to their hideouts. He operated alongside 2 other cops. One was identified as Usain Bolt and the other known as Mkosti. The trio fearlessly traversed the vast Kibra slum, smoking out criminals from their hideouts. Their vigor, resilience, and dedication to tackling crime was much celebrated by Kibra residents. His legacy has inspired a new generation of crime busters. An anonymous youth uses the name Blacky wa Kibera on Facebook, probably drawing his inspiration from Blacky. Number 3. Ocampo. Born Stephen Lelei, Ocampo is a celebrated cop who served as an officer commanding station in close to 10 stations in Nairobi. He served as the OCS of Kabete Police Station before 2013 Westgate terror attack. He was one of the first responders to the attack and due to his rank, led the first rescue mission. He is said to have put a brave fight against the attackers, floor to floor inside the Nakumatt supermarket before reinforcement arrived. He also led other junior officers in the operation, despite sustaining gunshot injuries. His show of bravado earned him a Silver Star Recognition Award from former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Ocampo preferred patrolling alone and was a nightmare to every robber, murderer, or sex offender. He has served in the rank of an OCS in several stations within Nairobi metropolitan area, including Kabete, Ruai, Mwiki, Dandora, Makongeni, Kayole, Pangani and Mulolongo. Once, taxi drivers and boda riders had blocked the busy Nairobi-Naivasha road in protest of reckless killings of their peers by administration police. The protest had caused a traffic snarl, with the intervention of anti-riot police proving futile. The then PPO, Kingori Mwangi, sought the services of Leilei, who managed to contain the situation in just 15 minutes. Ocampo survived an attempt on his life after his car, which was rigged with explosives, bursted into flames as he drove along Thika Superhighway. He, however, lost his wife in that attack, as she did not manage to jump out of the burning car. Ocampo's stint took a different turn after he was linked to the killing of Kenyan lawyer Willie Kimani. Although he was first dragged into the case as a state witness, the prosecution side sought to have his name included in the list of primary suspects. Together with another officer by the name Frederick Leliman, aka Masai, they were also accused of being involved in the murder of Jacob Mbai and Elizabeth Nduku on May 27, 2016. Although the second case is still underway, the case involving the murder of lawyer Kimani was completed, with several officers including Frederick Leliman, aka Masai, slapped with a jail term. Number 4. Tyson. His real name is Habel Mwareria. Tyson, based at Muthaiga Police Station, is a tall, well-built and dark-skinned. He has an astounding resemblance to veteran American heavyweight boxer Mike Tyson. His unusually huge stature made him a threat to criminals within the slums of Mathare and Huruma. He would single-handedly and fearlessly traverse the areas of Mathare, Huruma, Mlango Kubwa, Isili and Pangani on patrol. Like Biggie, Tyson not only warned criminals but also their parents. He would advise parents to relocate their criminal sons and daughters to other areas, preferably upcountry. He preferred long patrols unlike his colleagues, who always moved in pairs. He at times paired with another cop identified as Wahome. Their combination sent shivers down criminal spine. They moved like ghosts and were always armed with more than one pistol. In 2005, he rescued a child who had been kidnapped by a couple in Mathare. The couple was demanding 250,000 shillings in ransom. However, all they got was arrested. Tyson was later moved to Thika to counter crime in the slum of Kiandutu. He was later deployed to the tourism police unit. Number 5. Mzee. His real name is Timothy Kamunde. Mzee was among the very first officers to operate under the flying squad banner. He was a ruthless crime buster who ran a roughshod on criminals in the 1990s. He operated under the code Alfa Romeo, together with his colleague Daniel Sarone. The two would report directly to the DCI bosses at the headquarters. He operated from Makuyu Police Station in Murang'a, though his services were across the nation. The flying squad was set up in the early 1990s by the then DCI director Noah Arapto to curb the alarming cases of carjackings and bank robberies that had turned to be the order of the day. When the dreaded gang of Rasta, Wanugu and Washosho moved to Murang'a, Kamunde and his colleagues in the flying squad followed them and camped at Makuyu. The gang later relocated to Nakuru, prompting the officers to follow them there. They ended up arresting some and killing others. According to our intelligence, is that gangsters would prefer death than to be arrested by Kamunde. In his cars, he carried a collection of assorted weapons, including metal bars, hacksaws, handcuffs, pickaxes, ropes, among others. Number 6. Sarone. His real name is Daniel Sarone. Sarone was part of Kamunde's Makuyu-based flying squad. Just like Mzee, Sarone was celebrated for fearlessly dealing with the dreaded gangsters. He was mistakenly shot by his colleague while pursuing a suspected carjacker at Kimathi Estate. The gunshot wound left him hospitalized for some time. He, however, left the service dishonorably in the early 2000s. Number 7. Inspector. His real name was Zebedeo Maina and had rose to the ranks of Chief Inspector. He led the Kwekwe Squad, which ran a crackdown on suspected Mungiki adherents terrorizing Nairobi residents in the years between 2008 to 2010. He was once shot by armed gangsters he had ambushed in a house in Mlolongo. These gunshot wounds left him critically injured. He would later recover and go back to service. He was shot dead by his colleague while on a mission to track down kidnappers of a 5-year-old girl in Kitui. His death remains a mystery to this date. Number 8. Ahmed Rashid. Ahmed Rashid is an undercover police officer stationed at Pangani Police Station who is celebrated and condemned in equal measure. He has been praised by the community for managing to tame the superpower gang that had terrorized the areas of Isili and Pangani for years. He is however accused of reckless killings and favoring people of his tribe. We have done an exclusive episode detailing Ahmed Rashid's battle with the superpower gang. You can watch it in our previous videos. If you like this episode, kindly subscribe and leave a comment and I will personally reach back to you. You can also support this channel through till number 4024250.